Welcome to the Farm Family Harmony podcast. I'm Elaine Froese, Farm Family Coach, here with another episode full of transition tips, tactics, and sometimes hard truths to get harmony on your farm. Hi there, welcome to the Farm Family Harmony podcast. How to get those tough and tender conversations going. Many years ago, I said about conversation transition starting and getting it going, that you need to show up as adults to attack the issues and not attack the person. So that's job one, is be really clear that you're attacking the problem, which is the journey of transition, not attacking each other. The other thing is that you need to understand that communication is the foundation, and so you're going to work your darndest and hardest to be a really good communicator. And you can't make plans or express emotions when you haven't really done the internal work of figuring out what you truly want. So take some quiet time by yourself, thinking about truly what you want and when. What is your vision for your family going forward as you step back without stepping away? Or if you're the next generation, what's your vision for your business plan and vision for the farm? And also what's important to you for getting the needs of your family met? Because the next generation certainly is not going to work the 140 hours a week that the older generations think is a normal thing to do. So engage your spouse or partner to see what they want, because again, if your visions are not aligned, then you will be stuck. And then work on improving your ability to express your emotions. And I'm reading this great book right now by Carolyn Stern called The Emotionally Strong Leader by Carolyn Stern. And I met her at a conference, and I really agree with a lot of what she's writing about, is that emotions and sharing emotions is important. And it all kind of winds down or drills down to empathy. So these conversations about transition are going to be emotionally laden. So just understand that that's a fact of life. But then figure out what are healthy emotions that you can share. Things like, this is how it makes me feel, or I'm disappointed, or I'm surprised, or I'm unsure, or I'm feeling overwhelmed. Whatever the emotion is, be able to put yourself in the other person's shoes and say, I'm just curious, well, how does this make you feel? And my husband and I often have conversations about what if. What if one of us dies, or what if one of us becomes immobilized or incapacitated physically and has to have a different way of being and moving around in our farmhouse? Would we be willing to move? Will we be willing to make changes? And know also that you're not alone. There's thousands of farm families, over 190,000 farm families in Canada that are in transition. And if you want to shorten your learning curve on how to go through this transition, sign up for my membership site at elainefroese.com/membership. And we have a wait list, and the next time the card opens, you're welcome to join our group coaching sessions and also a lot of good content for you to keep on this journey. Another thing about having these conversations is to also know where you're at financially and helping get your lender to figure out how much debt you continue to service. And perhaps if you're at that lovely and beautiful position of being out of debt as an older farmer, then maybe you also want to have conversations about personal finances and living costs of yourself and your spouse as you age in place on the farm, and also the personal and debt servicing capacity of the next generation. So start crunching the numbers, because data is concrete and gives you something to measure. And you need, as a parent, to start talking about your farm financial liquidity, your income streams that you need for living that come from the farm or that come from your personal wealth bubble, and what's expected of both generations or all generations in the transfer. Also, make sure that you have emotional support beyond your farm family. And some of you will seek therapy and counseling, which is a healthy thing to do. Some of you may need to see a mental health worker because your mental wellness is not at the level that you'd like it to be. And also seek out folks in your community that have already gone through this journey and copy their success and ask them who their team of advisors were that they felt compatibility with and felt dealt with advisement in a fair manner and in a timely manner. You may want to have a coach to help you facilitate some of these transition conversations, getting started looks a lot like also looking at what you're afraid of. A lot of founders are afraid of losing wealth. And some people and some founders and parents are embarrassed or sad or frustrated or maybe even humiliated that when they actually crunch the numbers, that they don't have the kind of wealth that they thought they would have at 65 or 73 in order to keep things transitioning and moving forward. So being financially pressed in your 60s and 70s means making and taking creative solutions from all generations to find out ways to share the cash flows and work on capital and debt ratios and figure out your personal living of everyone involved. So here's a list of things and checklists that you can use to get you started on those tough and tender conversations. First of all, what is your motivation for transferring the farm? Are you doing this under duress, or you're doing this because you know it's time and it's the most important thing for you to talk about because these issues and concerns are probably keeping you up at night? Secondly, what do you truly want your life to look going forward? What does success look like to you in your family in terms of the wealth of relationships? And what does it look like to you for the farm business and the farm vision? When a woman in agriculture is not aligned with her spouse, you're stuck and you're not going anywhere. So you need to start thinking about what you disagree or agree on in terms of traveling, moving off the yard, whether or not the business needs to grow, because if there's a successor, that's called the successor effect. And yes, you want this farm to be able to support more than one or two families. What do you want in transition and what do you not want? What could you live with and what can you not live without? What's the worst thing that could happen if? And that's where you could get little index cards that say what if, and just start talking with your spouse about contingency planning and risk planning and how can you minimize the impact if something goes wrong. And also come from curiosity. If someone is pushing back and is reluctant to talk about transition, are they really truly afraid of opening up a box of conflict that they don't even want to deal with? Remember, conflict is not bad. Unresolved conflict is not good. And you are the one who's probably making assumptions or maybe have discounted other people's ideas in the past so that they feel that their ideas have been shot down and they'll just continue on their merry, silent way. And silence, unfortunately, in conversations is actually a form of abuse, according to the work of Kelly Patterson and the folks who wrote Crucial Conversations. So if people are stonewalling and not giving transparency or not speaking or not coming to the table to talk in these conversations, they're actually being abusive. And you need to talk to create solutions. And it's a great idea to have that conversation. But are you listening to this podcast being the one who's motivated and ready to come and bring folks to the table? The pushback can come from not understanding or feeling overwhelmed about, what do you mean we have to have an estate freeze? Or what do you mean about these land lease agreements or an operating agreement or a partnership agreement? All these legal documents or accounting functions and structures and tactics may make some families and some farmers feel dumb, and farmers don't like to feel stupid. So come from curiosity and say, I'm just curious, Dad, what is it about talking about these transition things that's hard for you? Is it the story you're telling yourself about how you were treated as a young person? Mom, is it about the way your family treated you when you came onto this farm and had to leave your farm behind and don't feel that you were treated failing? Perhaps you've been tried other advisors in the past that were very prescriptive and didn't actually even listen to what you wanted. So share your true feelings and ask the other person what they need to overcome the feelings or the deep emotions, and say, do you need more time to process this? We're not pushing you off the farm. We're asking you to create a vision of what it looks like for you to step back without stepping away. And do you have the capacity to tell your family what feels good in the decision-making process and what does not? And if you start to feel pushed and shoved, say, whoa, I need more time to think about this. I'll give you a decision or I'll give you feedback by next Tuesday at noon. The other piece is trust. You've had many years, I suspect, if you're listening to this as the next gen and the young farmer, you've been back from college or ag school for 5, 10, 7, 11 years. And every time you bring this up, someone says, no, we'll talk about it after harvest. No, we'll talk about it after seeding. No, we'll talk about it after spraying. No, we'll talk about it after haying. No, we'll talk about it after calving. Whatever the season is, it always gets pushed out in the future. So you need to trust the process of the unfolding of the transition journey. But you also need to grab the bull by the horns, literally, and say, I am willing to make appointments with someone who can help us facilitate these hard conversations, someone who can help us use a talking stick. I'm here to start collecting the team of advisors' names and make appointments for initial discovery calls to see if the chemistry is good. When you want to come to the table to talk about the tough and tender conversations of transition, you need to remember that farmers need and want their hard work to be acknowledged and appreciated, and they want to be respected and heard. And if you're yelling at each other, you're probably not listening to each other. And if you're walking away from looking at the land maps or having hard conversations, then you're not creating solutions. You're avoiding the conversation that will create solutions. So I'd like you to think about all the things that we've talked about today in terms of making your approach, getting ready yourself, being an emotionally strong leader, and looking at what you truly want, what your spouse wants, and hopefully those things are somewhat in alignment so that you can both create solutions for what you want your life to look like on the farm while you step back without stepping away. And I need you to know, I have this amazing young farm woman from Iowa who was stuck, but she wrote a letter to her dad. They had a farm family business meeting on a Sunday afternoon for 3 hours. And they sat down once they were clear on what the intention was to move forward. And those tough and tender conversations got a lot of traction and movement. Dad knew that he could move to town with Mom, and the house was already allocated or picked out as some that had research that had been done after the initial letter had been written. The conversation was safe and it was respectful, and it was a win-win for all, giving certainty and security to the younger couple for knowing that they could come back to the farm, and giving certainty and security to the older first-generation couple, knowing that their work was not going to be dismissed, it was appreciated, and that there would still be a role for farmer dad on that main farm. Those stories are the ones we want to repeat in agriculture. We do not want people to be living in anxiety and overwhelm. And remember, that's the neutral zone. That's the place that you're going to feel stuck when you can't even get into first gear because you're in neutral. And being in neutral, in the neutral zone, is what I call the place of being in high pain and anxiety. It's the pain of not knowing. So this short podcast today is here to remind you that there's many things that you can do right now to help get those tough and tender conversations started for your transition journey. You decide, you do the internal work, you find alignment with your spouse, and then you start communicating with the other generations involved in this process, and you build your team of advisors. And if you don't feel that you can do this safe and respectfully by yourself, then you hire a coach or facilitator to help you use a talking stick, put things on the flip chart, and get everybody's ideas and assumptions and stories out on the table so that you can process things to find harmony through understanding. You can do this, and you can take care of things one day at a time, one step at a time. This first conversation will be interesting. Be well fed and well rested when you have it. Do it in the living room where you sit around in a circle, not across the table at the kitchen where you all play your old roles that you used to pick up when you were 12 years old, and show up as adults. Remember, it's your farm, it's your family, it's your choice, and you can make amazing choices to have these conversations and start understanding what everybody is thinking, feeling, and needing as you make those choices to get what you've always wanted, which is harmony through understanding in your transition journey. I'm Elaine Froese, Farm Family Coach, here to help you find harmony through understanding, and wishing you all a good process and great success as you keep doing the work to find out clarity of expectations, certainty of timelines, and a commitment to act as you go on your journey of transition in this coming year. I know you can do this, and please feel free to reach out to our team at farmfamilycoach.com and share this podcast with the people in your family who also need to hear this message. See you next time. Are you feeling stuck with your farm family transition? I'm here to help. Simply go to www.elainefroese.com/membership to find out more how you can create and get actionable tools to help your farm family move forward. And Froese is spelled F-R-O-E-S-E. www.elainefroese.com/membership. See you soon.